hopefully you watched the Simpsons quote just there. Uh, Homer is actually exactly right about this idea. Not necessarily with his conclusion, but with his recognition of the trade off that's involved in lowering a speed limit. Lowering a speed limit saves some lives, but costs people time. And if we're going to make a good decision here, a sensible decision that balances those costs and benefits, we've got to somehow come up with a way to put them on the same scale. How do we do that? How do we value life and time? These are really tricky things to put a value on. Different people have taken different approaches to this. In legal work, for example, lawyers will often try to value a life based on earnings potential. They'll say, okay, this person would have earned $3 million over the course of their life, therefore their death should be compensated with $3 million, what they would have earned. I think that's a particularly hideous way of valuing human life, in particular because it means people who have chosen careers that are lower paying are just automatically worth less under this sort of framework. A stay-at-home mom is worth nothing, right? Because, well, she doesn't have any market wage that she's earning, and so her lifetime earnings may well be zero, but her life is clearly valuable, right? And so this, I think, is just a really wrong-headed way of approaching valuing human life. The way that economists tend to do this is to look at the choices that people make. Perhaps you guys are familiar with the show Deadliest Catch. This is a show in which people go out fishing, I think in the Bering Strait between Alaska and Russia, catching primarily crabs up there. And this is a really, really risky job. I remember when I first watched Deadliest Catch, probably, 20 years ago, I think early 2000s is when it came out. I would see these people at the end of the season and how much they earned. They could go out for, a couple of weeks crabbing, come back and earn, have earned like $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 for a couple of weeks' work. I remember watching that going, holy crap, that's a lot of money. Maybe I should get involved in this. Until I remembered that I'm pretty clumsy and I'd probably get myself injured at least and die at worst. Well, the way economists use a situation like these Deadliest Catch fishermen is we look at how much those people get paid compared with people who are doing a similar job that's less risky. Say a fisherman off the coast of California, say, who has a lower chance of getting killed. We compare the wage for the people with the higher chance of getting killed versus the wage for the people with the lower chance of getting killed. Presumably, and typically in practice, the wage for the people with the higher chance of getting killed is higher. And so what we can do is look at the chance that you're going to be killed on that job and how much extra money you require to take the more dangerous job, and then sort of scale that up. If there's a 1% chance of dying and you require an extra $100,000 a year to take that job, then what we say is that you're valuing 1% of your life at $100,000. Okay, so then we scale that up. If 1% of your life is worth $100,000, then 10% of your life is worth $1 million, and 100% of your life is worth 10 million. So that's the sort of number that economists doing these studies tend to come up with, that human life is valued at about $10 million. Not by the government, not by lawyers, but by the people who are making decisions about their own life. And we think that's generally a better approach.